Welcome back to Something in the Shadows. Today, we have the truth about the Boston Strangler. If you like videos about serial killers, leave a like on the video and subscribe for weekly content. From June of 1962 through January of 1964, 13 single women between the ages of 19 and 85 were murdered throughout the Boston area. Many people believe that at least 11 of these murders were committed by the same individual because of the similar manner in which each murder was committed. It was believed that the women, who all lived alone, knew the attacker, let him in, or that he disguised himself as a repairman or delivery man to get the women to voluntarily let him into their apartment. In every case, the victims had been raped, sometimes with foreign objects, and their bodies laid out nude as if on display for a pornographic snapshot. Death was always due to strangulation, though the killer sometimes also used a knife. The ligature, a stocking, pillowcase, or whatever, was inevitably left around the victim's neck, tied with an exaggerated, ornamental bow. The series of crimes was often referred to as the silk stocking murders, and the sought-after attacker became known as the Boston Strangler. A couple of years before the silk stocking murders began, a series of 6 offenses began in the Cambridge, Massachusetts area. A smooth-talking man in his late 20s went door to door looking for young women. If a young woman answered the door, he would introduce himself as a talent scout from a modeling agency looking for new models. If she was interested, he would tell her that he would need to get her measurements. Many women expressed interest and allowed him to measure them with his measuring tape. He would then fondle the women as he took their measurements. Several women contacted the police, and this man was referred to as a measuring man. In March of 1960, police caught a man breaking into a house. He confessed to the burglary, and without any prompting, he also confessed to being the measuring man. The man's name was Albert DeSalvo. The judge sentenced DeSalvo to 18 months in jail, but he was released after 11 months for good behavior. Following his release, he began a new crime spree throughout Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire. During this spree, DeSalvo, while dressed in green, broke into over 400 homes and sexually assaulted over 300 women. While police throughout New England were in search of the Green Man, Boston homicide detectives continued to search for their Boston Strangler. In October of 1964, a young woman who was one of the Green Man's victims came forward to police saying that a man, posing as a detective, entered her home and sexually assaulted her. From her description of the man, the police were able to identify the man as Albert DeSalvo. A photo of DeSalvo was published in newspapers, and several women came forward to identify him as their attacker. He was arrested on a rape charge and was sent to Bridgewater State Hospital for psychiatric observation, where he befriended convicted murderer George Nassar. It is speculated that the two worked out a deal to split reward money if one of them confessed to being the Boston Strangler. DeSalvo confessed to his attorney, F. Lee Bailey, that he was the Boston Strangler. Though DeSalvo's ability to describe the murders in accurate detail, Bailey believed that DeSalvo was in fact the Strangler. After hours of questioning where DeSalvo described murder by murder, the details of his victim's apartment, and what they wore, the police were convinced that they had the killer. Despite his confession, there was no physical evidence to link Albert DeSalvo to the silk stocking murders. Doubt remained, and police brought the Strangler's one surviving victim, Gertrude Gruen, to the prison to identify the man she fought off as he attempted to strangle her. To observe her reaction, the police brought 2 men through the prison lobby. The first was Nassar, and the second was DeSalvo. Gruen said that the second man, DeSalvo, was not the man. However, when she saw the first man, Nassar, she felt there was something upsetting, something frighteningly familiar about that man. Through it all, DeSalvo's wife, family, and friends never believed he was capable of being the Strangler. Because there was no physical evidence and he did not match witness descriptions, he was never tried for any of the Boston Strangler murders. He was, however, sent to prison for life for the rapes and sexual assaults from the Green Man case. He was sent to Walpole Maximum Security Prison in 1967 to serve his sentence, but 6 years later he was stabbed to death in his cell. After nearly 50 years, no one has been charged as the Boston Strangler. In July 2013, the Boston Police Department believed they had discovered DNA evidence linking DeSalvo to Mary Sullivan, who had been raped and strangled in 1964, the final victim of the Boston Strangler. After taking DNA from DeSalvo's nephew, the Boston police said it was a near certain match to DNA evidence found on Mary Sullivan's body and on a blanket taken from her apartment. Upon this discovery, the courts ordered the exhumation of DeSalvo's body. After extracting DNA from DeSalvo's femur and some of his teeth, it was determined that DeSalvo was the man who killed and raped Mary Sullivan. While the case of Mary Sullivan's murder has been closed, the mystery of the Boston Strangler still remains open to speculation. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel. I hope you have a horrifying day.